What's up? What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel Sports, Life, and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, YouTube's number one couch detective, and I'm here for the news. And here recently, there has been a ceasefire, aka a truce, between Hamas and Israel. Now, do I believe that Israel is winning this war? Absolutely not. I said it in the last video. They are not winning this war. Period, point blank. If you're playing basketball and you go on a 12-0 run, you don't call timeout. Only way you call timeout is if it's an even game and maybe the other team goes on a 4-0 run and you're down 4 points. Israel, listen to me very closely. Israel has 0% chance of defeating Hamas. You might say, hell no, they have the United States on their side. They have the West. They have all the technology. They have the bombs and all that. None of that shit matters because you're fighting not the Palestinians, not Hamas, not Hezbollah, but you're fighting something far more dangerous than all of those things put together. And that's you're fighting an ideology. And that's one of the toughest things to defeat is an ideology. The same reason why America lost in Vietnam, the same reason why America couldn't defeat the Taliban, the same reason why America couldn't beat Korea is because when you're fighting an ideology, all they do is teach the children. And every time you bomb, you create more of your enemy. And every person you kill, you create more of your enemy. So everything you do seems to be working against you. That's why a lot of time people like to use, the political avenues to solve a lot of these problems. Do I think Israel overplayed their hand? 100%. Because when you have to put boots on the ground, that's when you show who has the real dogs. See, I said this about America before in the last video. America has one of the bravest fighting forces on the planet. Strategy-wise, they might have some of the worst strategies in the history of mankind here recently. And the reasoning for their wars are always very poor. But when it comes to the actual men and women of the United States military, there's nobody braver, in my personal opinion. We remember in Iraq when George Bush was on that aircraft carrier and he said mission accomplished. And a week later, them IEDs started going off. And America still kept fighting bravely. And we remember everything that was happening, people being sniped, killed, bombed. They had to fight house to house. There's no tougher combat than urban combat. Door to door, building to building, room to room, hollering boom. Because when you come around them corners, you don't know what's waiting on you. You don't know if it's booby trap. You don't know nothing. And the Israelis have no gumption for that. They don't have the troops that have the bravery for that. And let's be honest. Half of the Israeli troops are out of shape. They're not even in combat shape. So if you think they're going to beat Hamas on the ground, there's no way. And if you think they're going to beat Hezbollah, there's less than zero. They have a 0% chance of beating Hamas on the ground and getting rid of Hamas. You can't do that anyway. That's not going to happen. That's why they keep bombing. Even in Iraq, where we bombed, remember shock and awe, we bombed, boom, 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 boom. But eventually we had to put boots on the ground because you can't bomb your way into victory when you're dealing with a real war, unless you're dealing with a very, very small, weak country. But when you use those bombs are softening so you can put boots on the ground and go in there. And let's be honest, the Israelis aren't going to do that. They're not going in them tunnels and fighting tunnel from tunnel. They're not going in them buildings, going from building to building to building to building. They're not doing that. They're not going to do that. That's why they're not going to win. They thought they could bomb the Palestinians into submission. And not only have they not bombed them into submission, now the world is starting to turn against them. And I told you in videos long ago that Benjamin Netanyahu was in trouble, that he had low poll numbers, and this whole thing was a ruse. Now it's coming out that I was 100% correct. Now let's take a look at this clip. Hold on. One second. One second.
This morning, a bombshell report claims Israel obtained the battle plan used by Hamas to carry out the October 7th attack more than a year ago. The New York Times reports the Israeli military reviewed a 40-page Hamas document last year, which called for a barrage of rockets at the outset of the attack, drones to knock out the security cameras, and automated machine guns along the border.
Now, look, I'm going to finish this clip up, but this is why the few people do watch my channel actually watch my channel, because I'm so far ahead of the curve. Did I say that this shit was a staged event, that they knew this shit was happening? They used this as a ruse to try to crush Hamas one last time and to save Benjamin Netanyahu? Let's take a look. Let's take a look and see if I knew that this shit was coming the whole time. That I knew. Look at this. Over 1 month ago, Israel knew this attack was coming. I told you so. Is this a false flag operation? Israel's 9/11. Israel versus Hamas. Is this a false flag operation? Did they know that this shit was coming? Absolutely, they knew this shit was coming. But let me see. I just want you to see this. I did this video October 16th. So this was over a month and a half ago. And I knew this shit then was a false flag. And I knew then. And, you know, a lot of people said, oh, this was a surprise attack. They surprised Israel. And Israel didn't know that was coming. And they intelligence, it was just an intelligence failure. And they had no idea that this was coming. And I kept telling people, yes, they did know that was coming. Yes, it was. And then I went back and watched some of the channels I watched before. And now you know what they say now? Oh, well, they might have knew, but I think because they just didn't take Hamas serious. You got people in a concentration camp. You've been battering on their ass since 1945. You've taken all their land. You've jailed them illegally. You've done all this shit to them. And then you get a whole manifesto on what they going to do, what's coming up, their whole battle plan. And you say, oh, we don't take it seriously. Yeah, right. They knew it was coming. They let it happen so they can do this bombardment. But like I said, they overplayed their hand. Finish the clip.
Israeli intelligence reportedly dismissed the plan as aspirational, but Hamas followed the blueprint with shocking precision. ABC News has not reviewed the document.
Them motherfuckers on 1986 motorbikes, and they had motherfucking gym fans with parachutes, and the motherfuckers said shocking precision. Wasn't nothing precise about that shit. Nothing. Nothing was precise about that. Yeah, they did it, but they was allowed to do that. Benjamin Netanyahu, he let that happen for his own job security. Benjamin Netanyahu's lucky they don't throw him in jail when this shit is all said and done for corruption.
Israel's military declined to comment. Meanwhile, the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas expired overnight. Israeli fighter jets once again striking Hamas targets in Gaza. During the 7-day truce, Hamas released more than 100 hostages, including 8 yesterday. Among them, Mia Shem, the 21-year-old hugging her mother after 55 days apart. In exchange for the hostages, dozens more Palestinian women and teenagers were freed from Israeli prisons. About 140 hostages remain in Gaza, including 8 Americans. U.S. officials admit they know little about their condition.
We will not stop working until we get every hostage back home with their families and loved ones. At the same time, we continue to surge humanitarian assistance.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken now warning Israel to do more to protect Palestinian civilians as the fighting now shifts to southern Gaza.
And let me say this: in northern Israel, close to the border of Lebanon, where Hezbollah is at, they getting their ass kicked up there. They not telling you that in the news. They losing a lot of troops. They not telling you that shit in the news. They got you thinking, just like in the Ukraine was winning, Ukraine losing. They got you thinking Israel's running amok, they just whipping ass. No, they not. Because if you was really kicking ass, you had them boots on the ground. You had motherfuckers, you know how you grab somebody behind the collar, behind the shirt, had their ass jacked up and cussed? You would see way more of that. Benjamin Netanyahu said 2 weeks ago, there will be no ceasefire. We have a ceasefire. Benjamin Netanyahu said there will be no truce, there will be no ceasefire, there will be no prisoner exchange. Guess what we have now? Prisoner exchange. He said they're going to release all our prisoners. There's none of that shit. Guess what happened? They start getting their ass whipped. And Hamas realized they can't beat us on the ground. They don't want to fight us on the ground. They don't have the troops with the gumption to fight on the ground. Because that's bloody. And you're going to take huge losses. United States, with the greatest military on the planet, very brave, willing to fight, took massive casualties on the ground. That ground fighting is tough. Now you separating the men from the boys. Now you ain't no more games. You ain't up in the air bombing where you can't throw a rock at a fighter jet. I can't place an IED on a fighter jet. But I tell you one thing, when you bring your ass down in this tunnel, now it got serious. And Israel will not go to them tunnels and go inside and fight. No way. America during Vietnam, they had what you call tunnel rats. They had actual men who would go down in the tunnels and fight with booby traps and all type of wild ass shit. That's why I say America had one of the greatest and bravest fighting forces in the history of mankind. It's just the upper echelon of the military and of the government have terrible war strategies because a lot of them never fought before. But the men and women are brave as hell. Israel they don't have that. They never had that. So they're going to fight, and lose because they want to do all this shit from the air. Take another look at another clip.
All right, to the Middle East now, where two Hamas terrorists opened fire in Jerusalem, and the men who were brothers were both killed by police and an armed citizen.
Israel and Hamas agreed to extend their ceasefire by another day as a new group of hostages was released by Hamas. Fox News correspondent Nate Foy is in northern Israel with the latest after the deadly shooting.
My heart goes out to the victims of this attack.
4 Israelis are dead after 2 Hamas gunmen opened fire in Jerusalem this morning. As Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
I told him, we swore and I swore to eliminate Hamas. Nothing will stop us.
Blinken then met with Mahmoud.
That's a goddamn lie. Hezbollah gonna stop y'all. And y'all gonna stop yourself because they don't have the troops with the gumption to fight that shit. I don't know why they get on TV and lie like that. And honestly, the last thing they want is any kind of escalation. That's why the United States is involved. The United States with Iran. I don't even know if Iran truly wants an escalation. I would imagine they would want it a little bit more than them. But even at that, it'd be bloody for everybody. And Israel was talking about bombing Hezbollah on the border of Lebanon. That would be a fucking disaster because Hezbollah have hundreds of thousands of rockets and missiles, and they would just overwhelm the Iron Dome, which is a missile defense system, and they would obliterate fucking Israel. That's why Israel's in a catch-22. They can't truly defeat Hamas. The world is against them, and they don't have the type of ground troops to actually crush Hamas. This is only going to make Hamas stronger. All they've done is rile up a hornet's nest and showed that they're weaker than what they thought. They thought they can bomb strategically, get these people out of there, and then it will be all good. But what's happening is this bombing is working in reverse with the in the geopolitical aspect as far as the world goes. That no, we don't. Everybody's starting to turn against Israel. Because you just bombing men, women, and trees where little kids and babies and shit is dying? No, you have to get on the ground and get serious and start going door to door and room to room. But they're not going to do that. That's why I say, listen to the percentages. They have 0% chance of defeating Hamas. As I watched this shit unfold, I've said more and more to myself, they can't beat these people. Just like when this war first started, I said, there's no way in hell Israel didn't know that this shit was coming. Between the United States intelligence apparatus, Great Britain, and Israel, those three in the world know everything. And come to find out, I don't be good goddamn. Only on Sports Life and Politics TV did I tell your ass they 100% knew. I said it from the very first video I did on this shit. They knew. There's no. I kept saying there's no way they couldn't have known. It's impossible. There's 0% chance. Dude, guess what? 3 days later, news report come out. United States, they kind of sort of knew. I said, not only did the United States knew, but the United States, in the video, this is my exact words. Not only did the United States know, but when they told Israel said, yeah, we know. But this shit is starting to work against them.
Abbas of the Palestinian Authority, discussing ways to accelerate humanitarian aid into Gaza and improve security for Palestinians in the West Bank. This mother is weeping tears of joy, finally reunited with her daughter, 21-year-old Mia Shem, released by Hamas terrorists today, with 40-year-old Amit Susana and 6 other Israeli hostages. But the joy of coming home can quickly turn into grief. On her first day back in Israel, American-Israeli mother Liat Beni learned Hamas terrorists murdered her husband on October 7th. She'll raise their 3 children alone. But Israel is united against Hamas and ready for whenever this ceasefire ends.
We are going to fight Hamas till we prevail, no matter how long it takes.
Knowing whatever.
And you know what just dawned upon me? The more I watched this, and this just came into my mind. Either one or two things is happening with this shit. Either within the deep state of the United States and Israel, they want to see the Israeli state wiped off the map. Because I remember seeing Henry Kissinger say that shit. And he just recently died the other day, which is a hell of an omen. Henry Kissinger said, this was some years back, in 10, 15 years, Israel won't even be a state no more. They'll be wiped off the map. Those was his exact words. He's a Jewish man who supports Israel through and through. So somewhere in the back of my mind, it dawned upon me just now that maybe some way, this is alleged, completely alleged, and I'm putting on my Negro tinfoil kufi, but I'm thinking, y'all, do somebody want to see the destruction of Israel as a state? Because they can't win this shit. You can't defeat. One-on-one on the ground, I don't think they can beat Hamas with the help of Hezbollah around the corner. That's just like, you might say, well, they ain't one-on-one. Israel couldn't win or do nothing without the United States. Without the United States, none of this shit is possible for Israel. Let's be honest. None of it. These people are not even used to carrying 80-pound bags around. They in trouble. They better keep bombing from the air. If not, this is going to get uglier and uglier for them. They've lost thousands of people, troops and shit already. You won't hear it on the news, but it is happening. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, like I said before, I think some way, somehow, somebody wants to see the destruction of Israel, or these people completely overplayed their hand with the United States and the West of starting this shit with no means to an end and no goals of actually getting anything accomplished. Because it's not like you can go into Palestine and then occupy Palestine and then police Palestine and do all that shit with the Palestinian people with Hezbollah on the outside looking in, knowing that you're weak as ever. Just not going to happen. So I don't know what their end goal is, but somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I'm thinking, somebody somewhere wants to see the destruction of Israel. There's no doubt about it. And it's not coming just from the Muslim world.
Whatever comes next in
Allegedly.
will be scrutinized by the international community. Secretary Blinken said tonight that Israel must take steps to protect the innocent civilians in Gaza whenever the fighting does resume. Tomorrow's the 8th consecutive day of the temporary ceasefire. In northern Israel, Nate Ford, Fox News.
They say, obviously, this fight is going on, and they're trying to do everything in the West within their power to stop the escalation of this war. But we're going to take a look at, maybe, 2 more little clips to see if we can get some discernment out of that. These other clips down here, I might go over those tomorrow. The YSL recap, we got Jonathan Majors. He was in, I think it was in Creed 3, and I think he was in, what was the other movie from Marvel? Ant-Man Part 3. He's a very up-and-coming actor in Hollywood, and he's been set up by a white woman. He ran and got him a black woman. But I might go over that tomorrow. But let's take a look at this next clip.
This air raid siren booming across southern Israel early on Friday signaled the end of 7 days of fire. It sounded as the rocket flew towards Israel, said by its forces to be fired from Gaza, an hour before the extended truce with Hamas was set to expire. The Israeli military said it intercepted the Palestinian militant group of violating their truce. So it said it resumed combat, with the ceasefire ending at 7 a.m. local time. Talk was seen over Gaza as heavy fighting was reported. There was no immediate comment from Hamas or claim of responsibility for the rocket launches. The return to fighting came despite urgent attempts by mediators Egypt and Qatar to continue extending the temporary ceasefire that began on November 24th. Hamas on Thursday had released 8 more Israeli hostages under a second last-minute extension of the deal, while Israel freed 30 Palestinian prisoners.
And like I said before, Israel said they were not freeing any Palestinian prisoners, quote unquote, which is hostages, because believe you me, Israel also illegally arrests people with no due process of court dates. None of that shit, just picking them up and jailing them, which is illegal in international law and all type of other goddamn laws. So this is why the Palestinians and Hamas and Hezbollah, they want these people free because they feel like you got hostages. So before they even took hostages, you had hostages.
Totals of those freed during the truce to 105 hostages and 240 prisoners. More humanitarian aid was also brought into the shattered enclave. Deliveries of food, water, medical supplies, and fuel remain far below what's needed, according to aid workers. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken did not comment on the resumption of fighting as he left Israel for Dubai on Friday. He said the day before he told Israel it cannot retreat in South Gaza the massive civilian casualties it inflicted in the north.
No, and people are not going to, they're not going to stand for that at this point. It's just one of those situations where you have to cover this because it seems like it's a precursor for World War III. I've said it time and time again, just like with the Ukraine and Russia. I'm saying it with this here too. All of these things are tied together, whether it be North Korea and South Korea. That's another one you have to keep your eye on. China and Taiwan, you got to keep your eye on. And especially with North Korea and South Korea, once again, without the United States, South Korea would be obliterated in 24 hours. They can be, the amount of artillery, I ain't talking about rockets and bombs. I'm just talking about pure artillery. They would literally turn Seoul into a ghost town in less than 30 hours. The amount of artillery that North Korea has is mind-boggling. And the amount of munitions. They got so many munitions that Russia just had Kim Jong-un Vladimir Putin, had Kim Jong-un in Russia, and they was getting ammunition from the North Koreans. So they let you know how much they have. And if they release that onto South Korea, it would be over. Like, the only thing keeping them at bay is the United States. And the only thing keeping people at bay from Israel is the United States. The United States is policing the world. How long can they do that? We don't know. We're weak as ever. Can we afford a war with Iran? No. Can we beat Iran in the war? No. Unless we use nuclear weapons, that's the only chance. The United States couldn't beat the Taliban. They had pickup trucks, machine guns, and Muslim do-rags. They couldn't beat them. They fought to a standstill in Iraq. They lost in Vietnam. They fought to a standstill in Korea. They ain't won a war since 1945. That was World War II and Hitler. And that was the United States and the Allies. So it wasn't no one-man show. So United States ain't winning wars no more like they used to. Israel can't win this war. So I most definitely want to go over these few clips about this war in the Middle East. It's important to cover. And, some people might say, this had nothing to do with us over here. You out of your goddamn mind. This shit escalates The oil prices will skyrocket, meaning the gas prices will skyrocket, meaning the food will skyrocket. That means goods and services will skyrocket, and everything can spiral out of control. So it's important to watch this shit, keep your eyes on this shit, and, you know, get an understanding of actually what's going on, you know. But it's been good to talk to y'all. This has been Sports Life and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, YouTube's #1 couch detective. I'm here for the news. Hit that like. Hit that subscribe. I just took your ass. So ain't no way Israel can win this war. Ride. Peace.